In today's episode of the show, I want to talk about AI and HR and all that could mean. Um, and the short answer is it's a mixed bag. There's potential, but there's potential for good and potential for risk. Transparently, I use AI every day. I use it to help me with documents, I use it to help me with research, and it makes me more effective and it speeds up my day. But it's kind of like a doctor having a really good tool. Just because the tool is really good, it doesn't mean that you still don't need a doctor doing the surgery. And that's where I'm at with AI right now, is that I think AI in the hands of the wrong person can lead you down a bad road. So let's talk a little bit about that. One thing I've noticed with AI is it has had the tendency to speed things up, but it also has hallucinated. And this is even still today. Even still today, and I would say that maybe hallucination is maybe not the right word, but it has given me wrong information. And it has acted on sometimes it's acted on a prompt that wasn't designed very well, and you think you've written it well. I've been in that situation where I've written a prompt that I thought was written really well, and I got a certain output that seemed 90% right and nearly, led me down a certain path, but that 10% concerned me enough to ask more questions. And when you start to ask more questions, there have been times when the language model has steered me in a 180 direction from the direction that I was going to go in. Or has significantly tweaked the approach that I might take in a situation. And this is in the hands of someone with 20 years of HR experience who has handled many, many conflicts and many, many situations that could result in legal risk. And so if you're trying to deploy a tool like ChatGPT or Claude on an HR problem and you don't have that type of experience, then you're going to ask wrong questions and you're going to get output that could very well lead you into a riskier position. And so that's kind of my caution to you. Now, I think it can get you down the road. It can get you into a better place. It can take a job description and make it better. It can give you a list of interview questions and make them better. It's probably not going to give you interview questions that are illegal, for example. You can ask it, what things should I not say to this employee that I'm about to let go? But when the situations get sticky, when they get delicate, that is when the model does struggle. And I'm not sure when we'll ever see that really improve, because human beings are human beings, and knowing how human beings might react in a certain situation is going to be difficult. And making sure that you input the details of your situation might be the biggest thing of all. So the human error of how you set up the situation and knowing what questions to ask up front is really, really important. And a lot of times ChatGPT will run with an answer based on a couple sentences that you give it, and that may just not be enough information. And so be very cautious there. Also, on the topic of AI, there is a tool that I have been using that I've been finding pretty useful. I'm going to hold it up here. This is called Plod. And Plod is a note taker that you don't have to attach to your computer. It doesn't join the meeting room, but it gives you a summary of the conversation that you've had. And it allows you to create notes based on that conversation. And this is really useful for interviews because it can give you a summary of the highlights, the things that you maybe want to dig into further. and you can give it prompts to analyze the conversation based on your needs. So you can say, hey, this is the role I have. Tell me what the pros and cons are. And it doesn't replace your thinking. It doesn't make decisions for you. It doesn't tell you who's good and who's not. And you shouldn't use it that way. But if you're trying to focus on the conversation and not focus on writing every word down that the person says, I think this is a really powerful tool to actually help candidates and help you to remember, to analyze, and to understand. What I do when I'm using Plod in an interview is I'll focus on the big picture. I'll write down some very strong strengths, some concerns. I'll write down some questions that I want to ask during the interview. And then I'll cross-check against my Plod notes, make sure everything looks, correct. And then I will add more context and more analysis, because the Plod cannot decide who the best person was. It can't read in between the lines. It can't read the vocal tone and the inflection and see where there's potential in a person. It just doesn't do that. And it's going to be a very long time, I think, before these AI tools are able to do that. And so it's really just a tool that you can utilize to make yourself more effective. This particular device costs like $150, and then you can pay for a subscription for the transcription. And I think it's well worth it for someone that has a lot of conversations, does a lot of interviews. So if you have an HR person who does a lot of interviews, I think it's probably worth it. There are going to be some states where you're going to want to disclose, hey, I've got this device here. I'm going to be using it just to take notes so I can focus on the conversation. It just kind of records what we say and it transcribes, because there are some states where you have to have mutual consent. And you know what? Note takers are so common right now that no one has a problem with that. It's part of life now. And in fact, if anything, I would want there to be a recording, because I want to make sure that everything I say is captured, and I don't want someone to just make a snap judgment. So anyway, Plod AI is a powerful tool to use. I don't know that I would trust AI on scanning resumes at this point. I think AI probably would be good at identifying the obvious really good fit resumes, right? They can identify if someone's worked in an eye care clinic or retina, or if they've worked in a receptionist job in healthcare. They could probably do that. They may struggle with determining how long a person has been there, just depending on because so many resumes are formatted differently. But where AI is going to struggle in finding the talented people who have great character, but may not have the resume of experience. They may not have retina in their resume. They may not have applanation or optical experience on their resume. But so many of the really good employees that I see getting hired into healthcare, into ophthalmology, are coming from unrelated backgrounds, because they come in with fire to want to learn and want to grow. And that is something that is difficult for an to determine. Maybe I'll write the perfect AI tool that can do that. But I'm not sure that there's a very clear algorithm for that. I'm not sure that there is. There's certain hallmarks, but for someone that doesn't have a lot of experience, a trained recruiter can detect signs of excellence in a person just from their resume. And they can detect that in a phone screen with someone who may not have any relevant experience, but they can detect character and signs of that this person may be a great organizational fit and a great job fit. And that's just going to be tough for AI to do. Last thing I think AI could be useful for, AI and automation, is and I just had a really awesome conversation with Jakob Greitzar from Talkie AI, which is a call center app that specializes in healthcare. And we were talking about how AI is really useful for when you have a situation that's delicate, like HR and hiring. It's useful for taking tasks that you just don't have time to do, that you would like to do, but you just don't have time to do it, and doing those things. So, for example, maybe calling people that you've hired recently, calling them and asking them, or texting them maybe, and asking them about what was their onboarding experience like. Or if you have applicants who are not hired, asking them about what the interview experience was like, or maybe even using it for exit interviews potentially. I think sometimes people are more honest when they're not talking to a human being, but they might be really honest with a AI call agent and tell the agent, hey, you know what? I didn't really like this, and I didn't really care for that. This was great, but I wish you guys would have done this differently. I think that could be a really powerful use of AI. I might have to create that myself, so that's copyrighted. Sorry, can't use that. Okay, scratch that. I'm gonna have to delete that from this recording. I think that's one really good use. Following up with candidates, or the other thing is like helping you just to stay on top of your applicant workflow, to nudge you to look at someone you haven't looked at their resume since they applied and it's been a while, or maybe they messaged you and you haven't gotten back to them in 3 or 4 days, or maybe just automating some of the back and forth. I think there's probably tools out there that do that, I think that would be potentially very useful, because speed in hiring really matters. Just like converting a LASIK lead, someone interested in LASIK or premium surgical procedure, you need to jump on these really good candidate opportunities when they come in, and you don't want them to sit in your inbox for days and days. So anyway, those are some thoughts on AI. I know it's probably going to get better. It's going to get better, but there are going to be limitations for a long time. And so if you can leverage, what is available now, I think that's a good idea. And if you need to leverage an expert in HR, that's what I do. I help ophthalmology clinics with HR expertise and offloading the work that you need done so that you can focus on what you do best. So anyway, if that's something of use, you can message me through seasoned-advice.com. And anyway, this has been another episode of I Care Leadership Live. I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to chatting with you in a future episode.